kind of encouraging people to take the possibility that we're facing major um, catastrophe globally, and soon, seriously, without fear, but to definitely start taking it really seriously. Um, and in a way, whether this is like really the fulfillment of prophecy or not is almost irrelevant. We have enough real world circumstances that are pointing at this that it's almost just kind of an interesting addendum, you know, that there are so many prophecies from so many different cultures that all seem to suggest this catastrophic event that is followed by some kind of utopian period. We have the blue star prophecy of the Hopis, the biblical prophecy. And, of course, I don't put any stock in the Bible in general, but I do know that the New Testament was written, at least in part, by initiates of the mysteries that did know how this stuff works. So, um, and by the way, I think that's why people resonate with it. The truth is kind of veiled in myth. A pope actually said that about Christianity a couple decades ago. Um, so yeah, um, in all the years that I've been looking at this stuff, it's true that for the most part, the things that I've investigated have turned out to be without substance. It's overwhelmingly woo. But I have had a few experiences, and I have found a few, I guess, lineages that really do seem to warrant uh, taken seriously. One of those is anything that has anything to do with the blue star. Not only do the Hopi have this prophecy that, although the date is contentious, like when it really occurred, the Hopis say it's hundreds of years old, but anthropologists say there's no evidence that it was any earlier than 1964. Not really relevant because a lot of the things that they specifically mentioned did happen, and they happened after 1964. So it's just worthy of noting that the main criticism to that particular prophecy is it's not as old as they say. But I also know that natives um, keep secrets from white people. Uh, I know that with absolute certainty. And it was proven to me. I may tell that story before the end of the stream. But I met a Navajo medicine man called Night Horse many years ago that demonstrated that natives see things that we generally don't. And actually, during that period, quite a few Navajo demonstrated that for me. Um, but the point being that there are some eerie similarities between the Hopi with their blue star, which is Sirius, and the mystery schools. The blue star in the Masonic Lodge is also Sirius. And I had a series of events that I experienced that were also very much in keeping with this idea that there's some sort of transmission from Sirius. And after I had those experiences, I found out that the Sequoia in Ecuador also use ayahuasca to communicate with beings on Sirius. And then the Hopi have secret handshakes that they use to identify people that have this secret knowledge, just like the Freemasons, who also have the symbol of the blue star. Sorry, it looks like my internet's kind of glitchy. I talk about it a lot, but it's because it's the most sync that we have. Because one of the major criticisms about prophecy, and for good reason, is that it's almost always vague. There are no specific time frames given, but there is an exception to that that is so poignant, I guess, and clear that even the skeptics that have looked at it have admitted routinely that they can't really dismiss it outright. Um, and that is, of course, the introduction to the Book of the Law. And the reason being that he gives a time frame of about 100 years, which was from 1914, He says that the new aeon will start when the world is soaked in blood by the Great War, which is written with capitals, making it a proper name. And historians say that the modern era basically was catalyzed by World War One, so that turned out to be true. And he said that fascism will be taking root all over the globe, and that people will become more bisexual and epicene, which means that they are of undetermined gender. And there's a number of other things. You know, he talks about population reduction, how society only moves by the light of genius, and the herd will be destroyed in mass. So, you know, that particular document, I think, really, you know, um, makes the criteria for specificity, and you know, it has a time frame, and it's happening. So, all of that aside, you know, today I got online to see if anything had happened, and you know, real world events. WEF just gave a speech saying basically it looks like the show's over, folks. Um, that's going viral. The Wuhan lab just announced that they have developed a new strain of COVID with a 100% kill rate. Um, you know, World War III, tensions are heating up all over the planet. Um, so, you know, I mean, I said all this last night, but probably more relevant is that ever since I was a child, just based on logic, you know, you don't have to invoke woo or spiritual powers to predict what it's got to only be a matter of time before the spell cast on these people by religion and these political systems wears off. They're going to figure it out eventually. They're going to realize, like, hey, if I wasn't born in Georgia and I was born in India, I'd probably be Hindu. You know, these kind of things that are so basic and simple and obvious that it really would only take a very light gust of intellectual wind to blow these people over the fences that are the parameters of their worldview. You know, it shouldn't take much, and I think that we have approached that point. And this is the interesting. You know, the word apocalypse actually means revelation. You know, it's not necessarily the end or destruction. Um, and I noticed late in high school that there was a new psychedelic resurgence, that a lot of people were breaking the spell cast on them by culture and all the things I mentioned previously. It was happening. And I think a lot of us really kind of took for granted that the things that had been set in motion by the 1960s and what was happening then would prevail. And it's also worthy of noting that we had all heard the warnings about the New World Order, even very specific details about how it would take shape and the sort of things that would precede the actual implementation of this. And they're all happening. But the point of this presentation, I think, is that in terms of awareness and preparedness, even aside from um, World War III and AI rendering so many people sort of, what's the word when you're no longer useful? Um, you know what I mean? All those other potentials, I think the very fact that so many of us are so close to overturning the old matrix worldview, you know, breaking free of the religions and realizing the truth about the political systems, the elites have seen this coming. They knew as well as I did 20 years ago that it was inevitable. And when that happens, they've lost control. These things are fundamentally the tools that they use to manipulate, pacify, and control all of these populations around the world. So I think the thing to take away from all this is that there are just so many influences, so many potential catalysts to this kind of change that would require turbulence, that there shouldn't be really any question in our minds whether this is really uh, the advent of some sort of new period. And I don't know how much power we really have in terms of influencing the outcome and how it takes shape, because we have let the machine that runs the world become so powerful, and it has so much ability to analyze and monitor. Um, it's hard to imagine a people's movement powerful enough to overturn that. But I've learned in the last few years um, that even though I felt like I had developed a pretty significant degree of personal power and wisdom, that there are bigger forces in the universe that can override all that. And chaos is just as real as order, at least from our vantage point. It may be true that if you zoom out far enough and look at it all, even the chaos has some kind of order. But relative to us, there is real chaos. It's 50-50. So no matter how well laid your plans are, no matter how much power you accrue, no matter how much wisdom you have at your disposal, even if your precognition skills are, you know, grade A, you still could be susceptible to the effects of chaos. And that is true of the elites on this planet as well. And it's definitely my opinion that there is some sort of greater intelligence that is like the sum total of all the smaller units. Um, and I think that it basically works to support life. You know, it doesn't find favor with individuals necessarily, I think, in the way that a lot of people that believe in the sky god. I don't think it's quite like that, but it does exist. And I wouldn't be one bit surprised if some sort of machination, whether it's aliens, natural disasters, or, and this is a really interesting one, if it's true, as some Native American cultures have suggested, that those of us that are awake and aware and have reached a spiritual level and understanding where we could actually live in anarchy, you know, we don't need to be governed because of our illumination, that we will intuit all the stuff that's coming and go up into the high places somewhere safe. All of these lunatics are almost certainly going to wipe each other out. So I think nature has a way of sort of taking care of things, you know. We probably don't have to worry about it. All we have to do is stay clear, focused, confident, and willing to take chances and believe in ourselves. And we'll probably find ourselves able to rise above all the dirt and grime by adding the right spice at the right time. And we will find ourselves in exactly the place that we need to be at exactly the right time. Our only real responsibility is to make sure that we're doing everything that facilitates having that level of clarity. Um, you know, fear is the number one interference pattern. So, you know, it's true that we are facing probably the most uncertain and threatening period in human history. But if you understand the mechanics of the universe, you know there's no other way that it can happen. Things are always in exact balance. So there's equal parts potential for crisis and opportunity. Doing a sort of dance. And the trick is just to align yourself with one or the other, with your thinking and your actions. And that's my, you know, basic prediction that we are headed for the great revolution prepared for the ages that has for its aim the amelioration of mankind from despotism, superstition, religion, servitude of all types, you know, all of these evils. Um, but I don't see a path to that place that doesn't require pretty extensive destruction before it's possible. And, again, from an occult point of view, that's just how the universe works. And there's just really no way around it. Um, so I don't know if the chat's just been really inactive or I don't really know if I, need to talk too much about the actual prophecies either, because I've made so many videos about this stuff. You can find my Hopi Blue Star Kachina. It's actually a Hopi guy explaining it all. It's probably better than me trying to do it now. What's going on? Oblo blocks. By the way, I want to encourage everybody, please hit the like button. Consider supporting us via PayPal or Cash App or cryptocurrency, or joining the Patreon so you can join our secret streams at the $10 and up tier. All kinds of perks can be found there. Join our Discord as well. We're starting rooms where we're going to share strategies for making money very rapidly. We actually have some really good ideas on the table that have been tested a little bit and seem to work. So it's a good idea to join this community, because that's one of the main things that we have to do, is really make sure that we have some kind of unified force, and that people are working together to make the kind of changes they want to see in the world. If we don't take responsibility of it, there's no possibility. And long odds are of no account. When people say that things are improbable and so you shouldn't make an effort, just point out the fact that they exist. What are the odds of that? That already happened. So what do you mean it's improbable? So no matter what the odds are, the most implausible thing has already happened. We're sitting on a rock drifting through outer space. So that's no excuse, you know? Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that's really all I have to say about that, because I have to get up super early. We're traveling to Cusco. And I kind of feel like something is waiting there that's going to allow me to kind of not complete, but really tie together all of the stuff that the mystery that I've been pursuing all these decades. So we're pretty excited about that. And again, we're inviting you all to come and join us there for an event probably in February. I'm sure will be amazing. We'll be near Cusco, so it'll be in the Andes, but we will have access to the jungle within a few hours. So we'll go to both places. It'll probably be for a month. Yep, Huachuma for sure. Huachuma. Um, yeah, and keep your eyes out for the interview with Dina, how do you say this? I can't remember how to say the name of her tribe. It's a really obscure tribe. Kuka, I can't remember. But the important thing is that she is the only shamana or shaman that I have met in all my years in South America and working with this medicine that actually practices in the authentic traditional way, which is that the shaman drinks the ayahuasca and the patient only takes a small amount, which is how it used to be done. And she still works in that way. And she's truly an extraordinary person. And one of the things I noticed about her that was really unique is that most shamans and magicians keep secrets. They're very guarded talking about stuff. But she was really open, even in the interview. She talks a lot about divining with Toei and a lot of the sort of stuff that shamans tend to not be so open about. She was very free with her knowledge. Yeah, so check out my Blue Star Kachina video. The ayahuasca and the Star Tribes video is also relevant to this. And that's a wrap, guys. I guess, like I said, I got to get up early, so I got to keep it short tonight. But I just hope everyone, finds the clarity and strength to make the right decisions in the coming months, because I don't want to be a fearmonger and I don't want to be the nutty guy with the sign that says the end is near or whatever. But I think we also have to have the courage to be realistic. And the best strategy, I think, is to prepare in a way that allows for both outcomes, you know, to make it through both outcomes. So familiarizing yourself with AI and trying to adapt so that you're still relevant, um, and that you can still make a living in the most rapidly changing economic environment in human history. I mean, things are going to start changing so fast. No one can really be prepared for it. There's really no way for us to predict what will happen when we have AI with 300 times the IQ that any human has ever had. No one can really predict the outcome of that. And it's right around the corner. So, you know, prophecies aside, it's an absolute certainty that major transformation is right around the corner, you know. Um, and again, regarding the prophecies, the most important thing is that there is a common thread. You know, all of these major prophecies and the ones that have, you know, the most reason to take them at least somewhat seriously, they all have this common theme of chaos and then a new order emerging. And really, any shaman or magician worth his salt can tell you that much. That that's inevitable if it's going to happen. So, thank you guys so much for spending this time with me, and I'll see you again when we land wherever we land next.